Hey, welcome back. I'm Jana with Purl Together. In this week's video, I'm going to show you how I chose to assemble all the squares for the Berroco Mystery Knit Along blanket. Berroco has some videos that you might want to check out before you decide how you'd like to go about it. I'll put the link to their channel down below in the video description. They did a sewing, I think it's mattress stitch pretty much. I'm not a fan of mattress stitch. I mean, don't get me wrong, it has its purpose, but I chose to do a single crochet join. Now, you may or may not like that. I like how it looks. It leaves a line down the edge of each block, kind of frames each block, and it does make a ridge. I don't mind that. I like it. My whole blanket is knitted from the neutrals color palette, and I believe I have enough of the lighter gray left over, so that's what I'm using to join all of my blocks. I may or may not use that same color for the border. Probably I will. And that's another topic I'll get to in a moment. So on my squares, I am seaming them together in rows. I laid everything out on the bed, decided in what order I like them. I changed mine up a little bit from the example and the diagram that Berroco has because I'm the boss of my blanket. And then I've started just attaching them vertically. You can see how mine's coming together here. So I'll show you how I've done that. Now this particular strip, the direction of knitting was the same. So that was pretty easy to match up. All I did was you'll see this, but I just found the center of each block and then pinned them together, and I'll show you closer up how I did my single crochet attachment there. So I've done that all the way down this first edge, and then I will seam together my strips. So that's this week's video, and then next time, which may be next week, I'm not sure, there might be a week in between. Nevertheless, next time I'll show you what I'm going to do about the border. I haven't quite decided if I'm going to do the border the way Berroco does it or whether I'm going to do an I-cord border. I love an I-cord. It's just a tidy finish, and I really enjoy that. So we'll see. I'm headed to Alabama this week to teach at the Alabama Fiber Festival. Yay! So if you're in the region and you're planning to attend, come say hello. Then when I get back, I'll do the border and I'll show you what I've decided about that. All right, let's get started on joining a couple blocks together, and I'll show you how I'm kind of easing things together depending on the direction of knitting. Okay, the way I have my layout arranged, I am attaching cast on edge to bind off edge. So the direction of knitting is the same with each of these squares on this edge of my afghan. However, that's not the case as I get through it, but that's what I'm going to show you first so that you can see how this direction of knitting is here and the direction of knitting is here, is vertical here rather than sideways. So I'll show you how I'm attaching these first, and then I'll move on and show you how I'm going to attach them if the direction of knitting is perpendicular. So the first thing I'm going to do is just match up my corners, and I can tell on this mitered one, I can tell that you can tell exactly what is the corner stitch right here. So I'm just going to go in with one of these little pear-shaped locking stitch markers, and I'm going to get right to the very corner on this stranded square as well, or as near to it. Now, what I want to do is find the center of both of these. So I'm just going to fold them in half, and I could have done this before I attached those corners, but no matter. I want to find the center of both of these. So there's the center of this one, and I'm going to take another marker and just put that right there with the center of that one, but I am not. Then I'm going to do the same thing here and find the center of this one. And what is the center stitch here? I'm just going to pinch that and mark it here. Close enough. Okay. Now I want to mark this corner, and I'll take it out right away, but at least I want to pinch it together and see. You can see where the mitered stitch comes up here. So this is right at the corner where I've pulled that through, and right there. And then I also want to find halfway here. And I'm going to go ahead and put a marker halfway here. So that just gives me some landmarks to aim for if I need to ease things in, you know, if my edge stitches don't match up exactly and I need to, you know, fudge it a little left or right one way or another. So I have one more and I will do the same, splitting the difference here on the left. You need safety pins, coilless safety pins, or whatever you have. And I can tell probably I'm going to have to do some easing in over here. I'll show you how I'm going to manage that when the time comes. Okay, so I am choosing, as I mentioned in the introduction, I'm choosing to do a single crochet join rather than, I really don't enjoy mattress stitch, and I think this is sturdier. And I've just chosen a color that I had enough of, and that I think will complement all of the blocks that I've got. I think my border is supposed to be this lighter color, the off-white that I have, but I'm choosing to use the light gray for all of my joining assembly. So I'm just going to go into that edge right there, and I have my slip knot. I am not a crocheter, really, but I'm just going to go into the very edge, draw a loop through, and then draw one more through to begin, to start my single crochet. Then I'm going to choose to go on the outside leg. I'm picking up the outside leg, and then I'm picking up the outside leg of this one also. So outside leg, so that way the insides are kind of tucked in under. I'm going to draw that loop through and then draw another loop through. And that's going to make kind of a cord edge on top. That it will be a little raised, and I don't mind that. So I'm going to, you can see the two legs of this stitch here. Let me zoom in some. You can see the two legs of this stitch here. I'm going to go into this one, and then I'm going to go into the outside leg of the next one there. Draw a loop through and another loop through. And I'm going to continue going down like this, picking up the outside leg of that one. And now you can see where the next leg is actually a little to the left. So I'm actually, I think, going to pick up the same. I might end up doing, on the gray square, I might end up doing 2 crochets into the same leg if I need to kind of fudge things together. Sorry if I made you car sick there. So what I mean by that is I would go into the outside leg here, and if I have to use the same leg on the gray one, I will, to make sure that things get eased in appropriately. So outside leg of the beige yarn, outside leg of the gray yarn. Single crochet. So I'm going to work my way across. Let me show you what that's going to look like. I've done this one. I have a little bit of an elongated stitch here, but I think that'll even out. But you can see that that kind of tucks in everything, tucks in the legs, makes a nice seam on the back, and it makes just a little bit of a ridge on the front, which I'm totally fine with. But everything gets kind of tucked in nicely. And the back looks good too. So I'm pretty happy with my method of joining there. So I'm going to work my way across, and then I will come back in a few minutes and show you how I go about seaming together the squares that are where in the direction of knitting is perpendicular. But again, if you need to ease something together, you can go into the same leg more than once if you need to do that to make things match up. Don't be afraid to just kind of fudge it however you need to. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to seam together blocks when you have a different direction of knitting. So on February's blocks, the direction of knitting, I mean, we just knitted round and round, but for this side, you can see the direction of knitting is up and down, whereas with this one, it's right to left. I'm seaming together strips now, and I will show you how I go over my join on the junction here. So the way I start is not very elegant, but I just folded the squares in half to find the center of each one, and then I pinned it there, and then I folded it in half like this to find this center of this half, and I pinned it there, and then on the corners as well. I also take a couple of the strands of working yarn. I tied a square knot right there to keep everything together. I may remove that when I weave in the ends, but then I also put a pin here. So everything's nice and secure is the point. So I'm going to start at this far corner and make sure my corner ends match right up, and then I'll show you how I begin the corners of the squares. And I've done it this way all throughout. I just do a simple slip knot and then have my working yarn coming off to the left, and I tighten that down on my crochet hook, which is, I think it's a G. It's roughly the same size as what I knitted most of the blocks with, maybe. It seems to work. So then I'm just going to go right into the corner of this darker block. Let me zoom in here. Right into the corner of both of those, and I'm going to leave my hook in there for just a second while I take this locking stitch marker out. I've got my slip knot here. Then I'm going to take my working yarn around to the back and tension my yarn properly and just pull up a loop next to my slip knot. And then I just single crochet right there. So my single crochet, as I mentioned earlier, does make a ridge, and I kind of like it. I think it's looking really good, actually. So here I'm going to go in underneath a strand and under a cast on edge right here, and I'm just going to pull up my loop and then single crochet. You can tell I don't know crochet terminology very well. But I'm just going down the side of this. Now I know that your row gauge going this way is not going to be the same as your stitch gauge going this way. So that's the point of just matching this up here. And if I need to skip a stitch here and ease it together, I can totally do that. You might need to skip a stitch on either edge and just kind of smash things together, and that will totally work. So I'm just going to work my way down, picking up. Mostly what I'm concentrating on this one is picking up each cast on edge stitch, and I'm picking up the leg that's furthest away, and that will make that inside leg tuck in underneath. Now whether I go in under a garter stitch bump or on the selvage edge or a knit strand, a knit leg on the darker yarn, either way works. So in this case I'm going under a knit leg and that cast on edge leg or bind off, whichever it is. So I'm just doing, like I said, that single crochet, and that's just going to make a ridge. You can see over here, I like how that looks. I think that looks really tidy, and it looks pretty good on the back side as well. So let me get along a little ways here, and I'll show you what I'm going to do when I come to this junction. So I'm going to take all these tails and just tuck them back to the back side of my work, and I'm going to try to match up the gray seam as best I can, and I can always weave these ends in later. That's not a big deal. I just want to try to, actually, I think I'll just push this one forward. Maybe I'll do that with all of them, push them all forward, except for that beige colored one. I'll tuck that down in. Anyway, I want all the tails out of your way as much as possible. And making sure that you're matching up the gray ridges. I'm going to go down right into the edge, and I'm probably going to catch this gray crochet stitch as well, and that's okay. I'll go ahead and do a single crochet there. I'm going to move over across the ridge exactly into the corner of that beige one and the corner of the white. Single crochet there. And I'm going to keep my tension pretty loose because I want this to be fluffy enough on the edge to cover the corner. And then I'm just going to carry on matching up as best I can the cast on edges. So, whoops, I've split a stitch here. Let me do that over again. Okay. All right. Let me do a couple more and then we'll open this up and see how it looks. And I know I need to weave in these ends, and I totally will, but I think that's going to be okay. I'll probably, when I weave this in, I'll probably take it in this way and kind of try to to mitigate that little white blip that's right there. But I think that's going to be fine. I'll just weave in these ends a little better and tie this one off. Draw these. Actually, I might take these to the backside and then literally tie them together to draw that closed. So you can fuss with that and see what you think works best. I'm happy to have suggestions and comments. Suggestions in the comment section. So I'm going to now carry on with this next section and pin together the middles and then, pin together each quarter. And this I'm going to have to ease in a little bit because they're not exactly the same. So I'll pin together this junction, then the middle, then each quarter as we've done before. Okay, I hope you found that helpful. This is the same method I've used to join several different blocks of different afghans that are knitted with blocks, including the 3 different rad vent throws that I've made. So I like this method. But again, I've put the links to Berroco's videos down below in the description if you'd want to go check that out and see what you prefer. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, and we'll do the border.